guys, we have a full moon in the sign of Aquarius that we're going to be talking about today, opening our week, coming in on a Monday, August 19th, 2024 at 2:26 p.m. Eastern time to be exact. And it is lining up. The exact opposition between the sun and the moon is occurring at 27 degrees 15 minutes in the signs of Leo, where the sun is, and Aquarius, where the moon is. Our full moon every month is when the sun and the moon come to their exact polarity point in whatever sign the sun is in at the time. Right now we're in Leo season and the sun is in the sign of the sun in the sign of Leo, so our full moon therefore is going to be in the sign of Aquarius, and that's what we have going on right now. And we have big astrology that is playing out alongside this full moon, you guys. We have more very prominent Uranian energy going on, the shock factor, things happening suddenly. Honestly, there's a bit of an accident-prone energy out there as well. And I will tell you, the impulse right now, and if you guys have been following my channel, I've been talking about this. This is not something new that I'm just coming up with out of the blue right here in this moment. But the impulse right now is to rush ahead, to be very impulsive, to kind of be reckless, and to just like take off, fly forward, like nothing to lose, risk-taking energy. However, there's a very strong Saturnian influence that we have going on right now, and that energy is not supportive of like positive results when we're doing things without a level of care and consideration and deliberation and just like good strategic planning and forethought put into our actions. And so it's real important right now, even though, as I said, the impulse is likely to be the polar opposite of what I'm about to say. Being real slow, being careful, being cautious, understanding that there's just a generalized like red flag nature to the things that are going on right now, and doing our best to practice self-discipline and self-control, especially in terms of the things that are coming out of our mouth and the choices and decisions we're making right now. That is definitely going to heed the best results for us in this energy. So I guess that as my preface to what we're about to talk about, we have two perfect squares going on between very like important planets at the moment of the full moon, as it's coming to its alignment with the moon being in the sign of Aquarius. Okay, I already said the full moon itself is in an exact square to the planet Uranus. Uranus, of course, rules the sign of Aquarius where the moon is. The other square that we have going on is between Saturn and Jupiter, and this is exact. And then, just to make it a little bit more tense out there, Venus, ruling love and money, relationships, resources, assets, values, preferences, what we're attracted to, what we want, what we desire, what we like, what we enjoy. She is also in an exact opposition to Saturn and square to Jupiter as this full moon comes into its alignment. And not only that, the sun is also in an exact conjunction, and therefore the moon in nearly an exact opposition to Mercury retrograde through the sign of Leo. At this point in time, Mercury, stationed retrograde in Virgo, has backed into the sign of Leo and is literally like essentially at the same degree as the sun at the moment when the full moon comes into its exact alignment. So there's a lot of corrections, but there's also a lot of like, just before the full moon, it's possible that you might figure something out. We have the Sun Mercury CAZIMI actually that is happening the same day as the full moon according to universal time, but it's happening like just as the day begins, whereas this full moon is happening much later in the day. So there's like a good spell of hours between the Mercury CAZIMI, when the sun and Mercury retrograde come into their exact to the moment alignment, and when the full moon, the sun and the moon come into their exact moment alignment. But I said hours, okay? So this is still very close, very tight. We're essentially talking about an exact conjunction for the full moon. And yeah, so there's a chance that there could be some revelations, some light bulb moments. This is another thing that I've been talking about in my reports and in the energy lately, especially the Mars-Jupiter conjunction that we've had going on in Gemini and the square to Saturn. Like, I've been feeling like there was going to be, during this period of time, some type of perhaps light bulb moment that hits us out of nowhere, that really like makes something clear to us somehow, that may have some type of like practical implication on the choices and the decisions and like what we're wanting to do and be and create and have moving forward. We're in a period of time right now that is really shaking things up in a way that is going to have people making a lot of different choices and honestly like desiring sort of like a different kind of life moving forward. We're in paradigm changing times, you guys, and we know that this period that we're moving through right now is really kind of an epicenter of massive change, transitioning us from one age to another as we narrate the shift of the ages on this channel. But the way that all of this is interplaying with itself, and to have these two big squares going on, the second square with Saturn is also a ruler of Aquarius. Aquarius is a co-ruled sign. The ancient ruler is Saturn, the modern ruler is Uranus. And so we've got both of the rulers of the sign of Aquarius. And remember, this is the Aquarius full moon, and we are transitioning into the age of Aquarius. This is a breakthrough point. Like, this is, again, like the things that are happening this summer in the month of August, moving into the fall, carrying us through this next year actually, are going to be things in retrospect, like when we're looking back at our lives, we're like, wow, you know, that was a real like turning point moment right there. Like, that event or that situation happening was like a catalyst for this huge like life redefining moment, and like everything changed for me somehow after that. Like, that's the type of thing that we're talking about. And I think that generally this will probably be a more collectivized experience, just for people on a mass level as we proceed forth through the rest of the summer and this period of time. I do think that things are about to get really weird though, like very bizarre, unbelievable, maybe quite unprecedented, things that maybe have never happened before, or there's like no historic record of. Also highly unpredictable. We've got a square to Uranus hitting us exactly with the full moon from the sign of Aquarius, again ruled by the sign of Uranus. This could also really be bringing some very sudden, like uncomfortable awakenings to things also. And people, I'm telling you, like, people are not going to be following the rules, folks. People are probably going to be like bucking the system, deliberately going against any type of authority, especially if they don't see like a real like rhyme or reason or purpose behind it, or they can't find like a rational explanation for like why they should follow that rule when it really is in the best interest of whatever they have going on not to. That's the type of thing that we're dealing with. So I expect also a lot of like interference and clashes with like law enforcement and like government, like versus the people and stuff like that with this going on. Major revolutionary, rebellious vibes for sure. That's undeniable, and we need to know that going into this energy. I will also say though, all this Aquarian energy, all this Uranian energy, and also the Piscean energy, and also the like stronger telepathic nature of the Jupiter Gemini energy that we have going on, there's a very strong like psychic impulse going on right now. Pay attention to sudden flashes of insight or like ideas that just pop into your head out of nowhere. Instantaneous knowing about stuff. These prophetic flashes are available to us, especially if we are like really feeling the pressure or like really seeking a solution or a remedy or a way out of something. There is just an energy in the ether right now that is primed to like spark solutions or ideas or insights that like help us to redirect the future in like a better way for ourselves somehow, that are more available with this heightened Uranian Aquarian energy that we have going on. So epiphanies, sudden realizations, perhaps even with the Mercury retrograde dynamic, a vital piece of information that maybe has been missing or we haven't seen clearly that suddenly like appears and changes everything somehow. Also, questions about the results of things that have happened in the past are likely with this also. Getting a second or taking or getting a second look at something or like a second opinion that might yield different results in a way that was unexpected, that causes some type of like upheaval or like backlash or just shock factor or something like that. Somehow that changes things. And I do think also, on one hand, because of the Saturn and Pisces retrograde influence that's going on, which is something that I've been talking about, another theme generally that is going on right now and that is likely to be very evident and represented through whatever transpires with this full moon and like sort of the crossroads that we're at, there is this theme between this tug of war between the past and the future, or this battle for like dominance in terms of like what's going to happen next. Will it be like a replication of past patterning that has defined the way that things have been done up until this point in time, or will it be this like radical change that represents like this whole new trajectory embodied by like a future that is trying to come to pass that is very different from the way that things have gone in the past, and like being at this point where there's sort of tension building and pulling in both directions, and like what way is the snapback gonna go? That is something that could again be presenting itself in terms of various themes that are manifesting and playing out right now in our individual lives and the circumstances, and also on the world stage on the macrocosm level also. But like I do think that especially like this full moon is likely to represent some type of sudden ending or also resolution of a past issue, maybe because of like the Mercury retrograde component of things, sudden changes of mind, shifts in perspectives that end up causing people to no longer want to invest time or money or energy in things that they are finding to be just like generally at this point in time, maybe after all this time, too heavy, too burdensome, too cumbersome, or generally we're just like, I don't want it anymore. Like my heart's not in it. I'm not feeling it. I've been working on it for this long. Like it's brought me here. But at this point, like it's become more of a burden and a weight than something that is like contributing to the life that I want to live going forward, and it's just time for me to like surrender this, like stop going in this direction, like lay down the burden. People are going to be taking in that direction. I feel like there's going to be an urge to drop the load that generally has been carried and literally maybe like quit projects or deals or jobs that are just not going anywhere, not growing, or aren't worth the time and energy and investment that is being put in. I do feel like people are going to be generally moving through August and into September also like pulling out of things. I think this Mercury retrograde is going to culminate in a lot of that type of decision making and behavior to like divest or like pull assets out of things, like pull just because maybe like, well, there's going to be a lot of probably fears going on that are driving this energy, but also again just what we are, the changing preferences and changing values going on, coming to a point where we feel like it's just like not worth it to us anymore for some reason. It's going to be a point of redirect for a lot of people as they reprioritize their resources and how they want to use them, spend them, invest them. Sudden urge to quit and be released from something. And there could also be, I feel like, a sense of disappointment associated with this. It's not necessarily like it's like this gleeful ending and we're like really happy or excited or enthusiastic about doing it. Loss, regret, like very much could be associated with this as well. But ultimately, it is going to put us in a place of regaining some sense of personal power over our own lives, over our own futures, like feeling like we're more in control of like our own personal trajectory somehow. So I don't know, this emphasis on the past and the future, where we've been, where we're going now, what we've been involved in, and what we are coming to a point of just not wanting to continue to be involved in going forward. It is a total wild card though. This full moon is a total wild card because of all the Uranian energy, the Aquarian energy and influence. It's really impossible to call or to tell, what could come with this, but it is also quite clear that distortions are in the process of being removed. Blockages to authentic growth are being removed so that we can actually like be in a position to move down a path in alignment with a higher level of destiny that is like being cosmically activated and initiated right now. Uranus, I always describe the energy of Uranus this way. It's like Uranus is known as the galactic fixer. I call Uranus the great rectifier. Uranus brings silver linings and blessings in disguise. Uranus is very much associated with like the cosmic plan, the cosmic blueprint that is unfolding. And when things have gotten too far out of alignment, that like higher plan is skewed in its ability to unfold organically and come into fruition according to these like higher timelines, then a lot of things have a tendency of happening as if though on one hand maybe by divine intervention or just like the most shocking things, or like these shakeups go on that totally throw things up in the air. But it's like the way everything always lands in the context of Uranian energy, it ends up being for the best in the context of a future that we didn't know was like trying to come to fruition, if you know what I mean. And so a lot of times Uranian Aquarian energy is associated with the future and with this sort of like prophetic foresight, because it gives an aptitude to sort of glimpse the trajectory of the higher plan, you know, where things are ultimately heading, even though a lot of times we don't necessarily have the context to like understand how we get there or like the step-by-step process necessary to get there yet. But regardless, when we're dealing with Uranian energy, this is an energy that removes blockages to some fated future outcome that needs to go on in order to get to that future point that we don't know is coming yet because we are not able to see the future. However, this is also why I'm saying, right, that the spidey senses can be very upticked. Like you could really get some like glimpses into, you know, some insight or some information that you need to learn right now that are associated with whatever that is that you're being realigned with, if you are noticing these energies playing themselves out in your life. And again, on a greater world stage as well, especially in our collective transition of ages right now, things are likely to get a bit wild because this is this interfering energy. We've got interference all over the place. Oh my gosh, communication blockages, Mercury retrograde. Like this is Mercury retrograde heightened. We've got Mercury retrograde literally in the full moon itself, the conjunction and the opposition to the moon itself. That's the Mercury retrograde. And then we've also got an exact perfect square between Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, which is also communication and information and like big news and stuff. There could be some like very big or significant or important news that is being like totally like snuffed out or like stifled, held back, restrained, limited, controlled in this energy, because that Saturnian influence is definitely keeping the lid on, suppressing, limiting, holding back the big informational energy that Jupiter is aligning with right now. Again, though, being slow, being careful, being very deliberate in what is coming out of our mouth, it's going to benefit you somehow moving things into the future, okay? We do not want to jump to conclusions here. We want to be very slow to react when the impulse is going to be to just like take off, okay? Slowing down, staying grounded, this type of interaction with the way that the world is coming at us and what we're navigating in our lives is going to work in your favor. Double check everything. Pay attention to your gut, right? Trust your gut. Pay attention to the psychic impulses or these flashes of insight that might be coming to you. They could be very important right now. We want to also be making very careful and strategic and deliberate choices in terms of the literal choices that we're making or how we're choosing to act and behave. And again, what we're choosing to say, write, express, communicate. Also, this could be quite an accident-prone energy. A lot of times, Uranus likes to utilize the function of like accidents to wake us up to something or to cause changes in certain ways when we're being too stubborn or we've gotten too far off course. This is also going to be breaking through a lot of very stubborn resistances that have limited or controlled our ability to go through a process of growth or mental expansion or change our perspective in some way. The way that these two squares are functioning together, it literally is like there could be some type of wake-up call that is causing us to like dig ourselves out of a rut, or that it is breaking up some type of stagnation that has been causing us to be very limited in our ability to expand our mind, understanding, learn something new, grow in some capacity. We've got these two squares functioning together because the Uranian energy, that is shaking things up. That is moving the immovable. That is like budging things that have had like heels dug in for so long that they've seemed like they're never going to change and not going anywhere. Like that is agitating change, be it through, you know, something that we are personally initiating, but more likely be it through circumstances that are forcing that process. And then when you introduce that other square with Saturn right there in the sign of, you know, Pisces, this is the control that our beliefs have had over us, that have held us in a state of illusion about our own true capacity, our own true capability, our, you know, what like skills and talents that we have, our ability to learn new things. There are personal breakthroughs that need to be made to, again, like realign collectively the whatever's being adjusted right now on an energetic level. It is to reawaken people to like their personal truth in such a way that they can act on it and remove blockages essentially in our lives to our ability to focus on essentially like what our actual purpose is. Like people that are doing things that they're just not meant to do, and like that have gotten like doing jobs and careers that are not truly in aligned with them, like living like life circumstances that are not a reflection of like their soul's purpose in this life. This is a time of collective destiny activation, essentially, where we are all like being internally urged to like push ourselves forward in one aspect of our lives or another, if not like in the context of our like entire life, and like legitimately breaking karmic cycles that have held us and trapped us in like these perpetuating loops of certain behaviors and circumstances and situations for like lifetimes or generationally. Like these are truly cycle breaking. This is truly a cycle breaking window period of time in quite an epic way that's going to be of some very large scale proportions in terms of its effects that it has, again, going forward, literally shifting the paradigm that we're in over the course of the next 20 years. It's not necessarily going to be an overnight thing, but the impact of what happens now is going to be catalytic in terms of what we see develop over the course of the next 20 years. In terms of also, like, and I'm talking about the differences in the ways that our like collective reality is being perceived and that we are operating within it. So, as I said, a bit of an accident-prone energy. Again, slow down, pay attention, do not be reckless, do not be a total spaz, do not let yourself spiral. We need to cultivate self-discipline and self-control in this energy. We need to stay grounded, and we need to maintain our faith and vision, even if it feels like everything is falling apart. I am still personally going to be definitely avoiding any type of big crowded like public places. Tension truly is at a peak here. We're talking about two perfect squares going on simultaneously. One of them is fixed, and it's including the full moon in the sign of Aquarius. People are going to be spazzing out in very big ways, very bigly. Also, lots and lots of mental health crises are going to be going on. We've got Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini squaring Saturn and Pisces. That is like a total breakdown in the mental faculties. Like people will not be in their right mind. Not only will they not be in their right mind, they won't be able to find it, they won't be able to access it, they won't know what it is, and they'll probably also be convinced that they're in the right and that they are the only ones that know what's going on, and that actually you're the one that's crazy. That's, you know, could be a very common experience that people are dealing with. We do not want to overly attach to other people's insane projections that they've got going on right now. Do not overly identify with anybody else's opinions, especially if it's of you, and especially if it sounds totally insane and you can't relate to that at all, okay? Don't let it like hurt your feelings. We got enough to deal with out there without taking on the insanity, literally the insanity of some of these people. And especially like a lot of people are also going to be dealing with some very wounded egos. We're talking about this Mercury retrograde Sun conjunction in the sign of Leo. It has a lot to do with the ego. We're also talking about the Mars Jupiter square Saturn. That's wounded egos. people are, especially, and again, like I was saying, this is rule breaking energy. Anywhere where like an authority figure is like telling people no and they don't want to hear that, like we could really see some very like spoiled, egotistical, like tantrums. This is tantrum type behavior as well. So there's that. On the other side of that, though, with the Leo energy being so prominent right now, this could be bringing up themes regarding the inner child, or like inner child wounds that are surfacing right now that we're like gaining an awareness of and realizing maybe the deeper impact of, or that they're the root cause of some things that we're trying to shift, change, or let go of within ourselves now. This could also manifest as people just desperately needing a break, like really needing to take a break from especially like work, duty, responsibility, the worries, the things that have been weighing heavy on us, and get a moment to just like have some fun, enjoy life, like indulge in some type of like creative passion or like artistic expression or something like that. That could be a real draw in this energy with the Mercury retrograde sun conjoining in the sign of Leo. This is all about our personal self-expression and our ability to have fun and what we enjoy, and you know, ability to kind of like celebrate life and stuff like that. And with the retrograde energy, it could really just be reminding us also maybe of what we used to love, what we used to enjoy, like the things that really used to light us up inside, and wanting to reconnect in that from that in some type of a way, and noticing maybe like a glaring contradiction between the life that we're living and what really makes us feel alive, you know what I mean, and the challenges that that presents, and also you know, things weighing in the balance in that regard. Like after, you know, I'm coming to this point of realization that like I can't keep living like this because it doesn't, like, it is just draining me. How do I change my life in a way that I can still do what I need to do and fulfill my responsibilities and stuff like that, but I am, you know, feeling lit up and not feeling like just dampered out all the time. A lot of people might also just have the spontaneous urge to play hooky today, feeling like the desire to totally break out of their box of like mundane daily lives and tasks and stuff, and just like really reinvigorate that life force, really feel alive. But at a crossroads, you guys, lots of people are going to be there, and with the Aquarius Leo energy going on, and also the Saturn Mars Jupiter energy going on, it's going to be in a lot of cases a crossroads between the changes that need to happen to be able to re-embrace the authentic self, and also still maintain some type of duty or position or responsibility or public reputation somehow. But there's this give and take that will need to go on. This energy also, again, you know how I was saying earlier, it's really important to mind our words, you know, choose our words wisely, act carefully, be deliberate, and be very conscious in our actions and our choices and decisions and how we're expressing ourselves right now. This is an energy that can really do some damage to sort of like the public reputation as well if you're not kind of careful. So there's another, like if you've got, you know, an image or a reputation that it's very important to you that, you know, you uphold for some reason in the context of like the bigger picture of where you're feeling like called on that higher level to be growing into right now. And if you feel like, you know, saying this thing or doing this thing or getting involved with this thing might have some type of impact that actually hinders your ability to get to like your final destination, or, you know, in the bigger picture of things isn't gonna work to your benefit, you may want to reconsider, because with Jupiter and Saturn, this is about like long-term success. This is about like the proper foundations to build upon in order to achieve that bigger overall picture. And the Uranian energy in the square and the Mars square Saturn energy with Jupiter there, like this is energy that really can get a quick karmic slap down if we're not dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Remember, we're also in a Mercury retrograde conjunction, and Mercury had retrograded in the sign of Virgo. Venus is also in the sign of Virgo right now. That is a desire for like order and organization and like things to be done right. And so if we're not doing things right, if we're being super chaotic, if we're being reckless, if we're spiraling, if we're spinning out of control, if we're being just like, you know, a loose cannon and like that type of stuff, it is not supported in this energy for just our best outcomes and our best results. But again, That will be the impulse, and lots of people are going to be demonstrating that very behavior. There's also a very prominent financial and perhaps relationship-based component to the way that this energy may be causing some like real serious tension, breakdowns, breakthroughs, or just generalized shakeups, based maybe in resources, material things, or projects as well. It is a squeeze on the financial growth of things. We have the square between Mars and Saturn and Jupiter, which we've been talking about. We have the square between the full moon and Uranus. But as I said, Venus just happens to be like introducing herself to this nice, very contesting energy that we have going on by exact opposition to Saturn and exact square to Jupiter. And, you know, essentially Mars also square between Saturn and Mars, right? Or between Venus and Mars right there. That's telling you relationship conflicts, issues. We've got the Uranus in the sign of Taurus squaring the full moon, sudden, unexpected shakeups, breakdowns, and people, as I was said, just wanting to sort of like cut their losses. All right. People are going to be cutting their losses when it comes to other people and when it comes to financial situations. Saturn opposite Venus, like this puts the squeeze on things. Venus square Jupiter, this wants to bring growth. This wants to bring, you know, our highest ideals, and we want to see things the way that we want to see things. But with Saturn there, this is limitations, this is restrictions, this is holding things down. And also in the sign of Pisces, this could bring confusion, this could bring disorientation, and of course this unexpected like shock factor, bizarreness of things that could be very suddenly happening as well. With the Uranian wild card influence, fears of financial loss could be making people take very spontaneous, radical actions that are not necessarily like going to yield the best results. People, again, like this is bringing me back to also suddenly pulling out of things, breaking contracts, backing out of commitments and deals. And like we're talking about the Venetian energy here, like especially anything that is feeling disorganized or that is feeling chaotic or that is feeling like it's not in proper order as well, or it's not getting us to the harvest. Like it's not yielding a harvest. It's not getting us the outcome that we want. A lot of people are going to be pulling out of that. Partnerships, projects could suddenly like break down, relationships, breakups and breakdowns happening seemingly out of nowhere. People just disappearing, totally like making a break for it. There is an intolerance for that which seems like too much of a burden, or that's not working, or that's not producing, or that's not yielding. People are not going to be motivated to continue to like blindly work on things that just like aren't paying off in this energy. They're not going to want to continue to shoulder old burdens. And, you know, because of the Sun Mercury retrograde in the sign of Leo conjunction, this could also have to do or bring in an element having to do with like rulership or elites or celebrities even, and like them doing things or saying things or making choices, or choices maybe that they have made in the past with the Mercury retrograde as well, that are somehow extrapolating out to a collective unexpected like financial fear that could be going on right now, or loss. There could be like, I guess what I'm saying is there could be like influencers that are acting erratically in this energy that are creating like false fears, and also like people to do things that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise do, that create like weird chaotic situations that don't make sense and are literally just like based on spontaneous reactions to things, but then they create consequences that like we've got to deal with and stuff like that as well. There could be some type of element along those lines with this strong Leo influence that we've got coming in right now as well. But I mean, we really, like, if you think about it, okay, Venus in the sign of Virgo, opposite Saturn, square Jupiter. On one hand, as I said, this is an intolerance for a lack of order or a lack of organization or a lack of like things seeming like they're going to yield some type of result, but it's essentially like boiled down to people just generally being frustrated if they are unable to adequately like get their way or get what they want or get their outcome in some type of way. And that is going to be happening. We've got Jupiter and Venus in square. This is like people wanting things to grow, like wanting to experience the pleasure or the comfort or get what they want out of a situation, but Saturn there holding it back, not letting it happen. And then we bring in Uranus in the sign ruled by Venus in Taurus in the 90-degree, like things coming to a head, pressure building, tension building, like things about to snap type of energy in the context of the elevated emotional tension associated with the full moon itself. This could be taking like some big or sudden action to free ourselves or change our circumstances and try to get what we want, essentially. Like people are going to be going for it. There could be a lot of foolish risks that have negative consequences or karmic blowback that is going on right now. But like, again, unable to contain the will or our own selves, like people really lacking self-discipline and self-control. And that's why I'm out here like, practice self-discipline, practice self-control, even if it's not something that you normally struggle with. It's just something that we should be aware of. And I do feel like it will help us just stay centered and grounded and, you know, be able to be more calm in the midst of chaos, perhaps, as we do move through this energy. And it is likely to be a very chaotic time. Like, look at what we've got going on. We've got all this Aquarius uranian energy. We've got 2 squares. We've got Gemini, Mars, Jupiter. Like, people are losing it. People are at their breaking point generally, and they're going to be hyper reactive, acting radically. This is more of this very volatile energy. We've been talking about it basically essentially since we had the Mars Jupiter conjunction that happened last week, or by this time this video comes out, it might be 2 weeks ago by that point. But ever since then, and really through the rest of August, we are just in this very, very energetically like tense and contentious atmosphere that is going to have people spinning and spiraling out of control. Individuals will be snapping and exploding. The tension is super maxed out. Do not push people. Do not pressure people. Our job really here is to maintain our own equilibrium to the best of our ability while working to make the necessary and productive changes and repairs to ourselves internally and to our external environment as well that are essentially making our lives easier right now. That's the best way to handle this energy with all this interference and all this resistance and all this like strife and perhaps like chaos going on. Doing things to make our own day-to-day lives easier is we're going to reap probably the most benefit and also suffer the least frustration if we kind of gear ourselves mentally that way and just understand that nothing is really flowing in everything is experiencing sort of turbulence right now. And as long as we can move through without understanding, that in and of itself is going to release us from the additional layers of frustration that come from just not understanding why everything is such just like a cluster, you know what, right now. Okay. So, there's going to be a lot of struggling that goes on. There's going to be a lot of major resistance that goes on to our ability to proceed with things. But we know that slow and steady wins the race here. Been saying it for weeks now. Don't be too hard on yourself if things don't seem to be working out. Don't internalize what is going on out there. We've got enough, you know, to worry about without also becoming a vessel for everybody else's, as I said earlier, like skewed judgment and relative insanity. Try to find ways, right, to have fun and to feel alive in the midst of it all. That's going to be some necessary release and relief and will help us to kind of like keep ourselves grounded and in that state of greater balance and equilibrium as this energy does play itself out. And again, trust your gut and your inner knowing. There's a very like, it's like plugging in to an outlet instantaneously, and like the light that you get from that moment of being plugged in, like sort of being able to see an image of like where you're going or like get a glimpse of the future somehow. It's very interesting the way that the air sign energy and the Aquarian energy functions in its psychic nature. But I do think that, you know, it's very possible, and like telepathic connectivity and stuff like that as well, like clairaudience and stuff like that, clairvoyance and clairaudience. These type of psychic energies are extremely like tangible out there right now. So if you feel like you just have a vision, have a knowing, like a instant flash of something, pay attention to it, because it could be serving you somehow. And despite the surface appearances of what are actually happening right now, this is a very preparatory phase. As I said, we are in another epicenter of very strong Uranian energy that is reorienting things in order so that some necessary, like, procession of events can come to pass in correspondence with the greater overall unfolding cosmic blueprint right now in our transition into the age of Aquarius. We also have the position of the full moon itself at the Sabian symbol of 28 degrees of Aquarius. That Sabian symbol is a tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. This is a time where we can prepare and make ourselves great for what is to come and the greatness that we are destined to step into. This is where we learn the lessons and we gain the skills that like make the man or the person into the greater version of themselves that exists at a future point in time. Okay, so we are cultivating and preparing and utilizing what we have to like get ready for what is to come, and it's being described by that symbolic placement of the full moon and also the earth. The earth astrologically is in a conjunction to the full moon when we have a full moon playing out, because it's always in a polar opposition to the sun. So that's an interesting Sabian. We also have the position of Uranus right now in the square at 28 degrees of Taurus, a woman pursued by mature romance. Saturn opposite Venus, Venus opposite Saturn, that is also mature romance. This is a shift in and a maturation process and like a collective growing up also in terms of what we're attracted to and what we want in terms of how we're going to spend our money, how we want to spend our resources, what we're prioritizing, and our ability actually to do relationships in a way that are going to bring us a much greater sense of fulfillment moving forward into the future. So there is this maturation process being indicated by the fact that Venus and Saturn are in exact opposition, and also the degree of Uranus in Venus's sign, talking about mature romance. Like something is coming to its next phase of growth and evolution. This could also be very financial as well. Okay, I want to talk about the Sabian symbols of the planets in their mutable sign square. Venus, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. Venus, interestingly enough, is at 18 degrees of Scorpio or Virgo. That Sabian symbol is two girls playing with an Ouija board, and I was telling you about like the psychic nature of the energy right now and our ability to literally like receive downloads or insights from the ether in order to kind of like guide what we're doing and where we're going. And then we've literally got Venus at the degree talking about two girls playing with an Ouija board. So there is an ability to tap into sort of like the higher realms and, you know, get guidance or advice to help us on our way as we move through here. We have Mars at 20 degrees of Gemini, a cafeteria with an abundance of choices. Things are opening up. Again, the Mercury retrograde energy, and a lot of choices and decisions are going to be altered. We're going to be taking a second look at things, and we're going to be evaluating other options perhaps that maybe we hadn't considered in the past as we are going through this maturation process in terms of our preferences, what we're attracted to, and what it is that we really want and value moving forward. We have Saturn at 18 degrees of Pisces. That Sabian symbol is in a gigantic tent. A famous revivalist conducts his, hold on, I've got to look back a page. Conducts his talk, I think it is, with a spectacular performance, conducts his meeting with a spectacular performance. In a huge tent, a famous revivalist conducts his meeting with a spectacular performance. And that is another thing about like this spiritual revival or this awakening or this reawakening of like a passion or a motivation to maybe reconnect with a higher truth or to, you know, reconnect with spirit or God or a higher power in the context of us moving towards a greater destiny. It's re-inspiring us to look at things different, to reevaluate our belief systems, to maybe like expand our spiritual connections somehow. So that's an interesting placement that is involved in this square of planets as well. And then we also have the position of Jupiter right now. I talked about this in my last video at 18 degrees of the sign of Pisces. That Sabian symbol is two Chinese men talking Chinese in a Western crowd. This concept and theme of not being able to get a message across, like blocks in communication, interference to communication. We've been talking about this. We have Mercury, or no, Mercury's retrograde, and that's not helping. That's also contributing to this. But we have Jupiter and we have Mars in the sign of Gemini, communication coming into a square with Saturn. So interference, blocks to communication, to the flow of information. I've been saying, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there are like down internet or like electric issues that are causing like power outages and stuff like that. That could really be going on here. And also there could be issues with air trouble, things to do with planes, things to do with pilots, things to do with travel interference. It's all over the charts right now. I've been seeing it for a couple weeks. I've been mentioning it here and there, and that's also very possible and very relevant, the way that this energy is coming through. There's a big emphasis on what's in like the ether, like the things going through the air, like what's in the sky above, and blockages or interference or like crisis situation, conflict. There could even be like things to do with like drone battles or something like that. I don't know, but, or, you know, just generalized like information wars. We're in that energy as well, and we've been talking about that also. But I do want to say finally, the position of Mercury retrograding. He is at 26 degrees of Leo for our moment of our full moon, and that Sabian symbol is after a heavy storm, a rainbow appears. So everything is going to be okay, you guys. Rainbows, you know, in symbolism and energetically always indicate a successful outcome that leads to like emotional fulfillment and like generalized happiness about like whatever's gone on. So it's leading us to a better place, like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you know what I mean? Like there's a positive outcome. This whole situation is about delayed gratification as it is, and we are in like the eye of the storm right now also. And that being said, there could actually also be some big, very destructive storms that go on, electrical storms, tornadoes, things to do with water, with the Saturn, damage by water with the Saturn, and like hurricanes and stuff like that. So definitely I would be weather aware as we move through this full moon, and we've got this energetic peak squaring Uranus as well. It could come out of nowhere. Earthquakes, tsunamis and stuff like that also. Big lightning storms. So that's what I have to say, you guys. This is definitely one of the most intense, probably most difficult, challenging, trying, like energetically and emotionally like hyper stimulating and contentious full moons of this year. You know, it's not like the most holly jolly astrology going on out there, but it is very significant. Squares do ultimately bring growth. They do bring progress. They do bring evolution. They do bring necessary lessons. And the greatest results, a lot of times, this is master builder energy at the end of the day. That's what I've been saying. And we're just at a crunch time right now. We're at a point of, you know, struggle and contention, but it's leading to a phase of breakthrough that is going to reawaken, re-stimulate, and like bring back to life, ignite the life force energy in like the collective, the greater collective somehow. And there is going to be some type of renaissance, or some type of, what was that, the name, that a famous revival, some type of revival or something that I do feel will follow on the heels of whatever the rest of this year and moving into next year brings. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to get us a synchronicity card. God, Spirit, Universe, what is an additional piece of advice or information? What should we know? What should we keep in mind as we move through this period of time? I wouldn't have super high expectations for anybody, you know, including yourself. We're all going to be doing our best to make it through. And this is, you know, it is just a challenging time. And in that regard, our advice for this moon is forgive, which I have a feeling is going to be pretty relevant after some of the things go down that may go down or pop off as we move through this period of time. Be not afraid for the pestilence that walketh in darkness. Psalms 91. You are in the dark when you indulge in depression, feeling sorry for yourself, anger, or ill will. When you condemn yourself or others, these are pestilences of the darkness. Anger towards others reflects your emotionally charged state. You violate the law of harmony and it will bring you trouble. Forgive yourself and others and hail God in your midst to heal your anger. Pray, thank you, God, for removing my anger. Again, like hypercharged energetic atmosphere, emotional tension literally through the roof. The rubber band is pulled all the way back. As I've said repeatedly, a lot of people are going to be snapping and at their breaking point, and we are not necessarily like on the outskirts of that. You know what I mean? Like everybody is probably going to be dealing with at least a touch of this energy as we move through. So forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness of others, and trying not to be a vessel for the anger or the frustration that might just seem like it is so crucial for us to like express or experience or hold on to or get out right now. You violate the law of harmony and it will bring you trouble. Forgive yourself and others and hail God in your midst to heal your anger. So that's the memo, that's the advice, that's the guidance, and I do feel like it is probably some very strong support for what we may have going on or what we might be going through as we move through this energy. So that's what I'm going to say, you guys. I hope you liked the video. I hope there was something meaningful in there for you. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think they would be interested in this type of astrology content as well, if they would like to narrate the shift of the ages with us. Leave me comments, you guys. I'm so grateful for your presence here. Your contributions to my channel, what you guys have to say, are very, very meaningful to me. I truly value when you guys tell me what you've got going on, especially if you have things happening in your lives that are a reflection of what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for your input. Again, really appreciate you guys. I love you so much. And if you want to know what's on this whiteboard over here, I have a Facebook group where I post images of that. You can find that in my description box below. And come back with me on Wednesday, you guys. We are clearly in a very big week of astrology. There's a lot of energy happening out there, and there's going to be more of it to talk about and get into on Wednesday. And I will be here to do just that. So you know what? You should be here too. You should come back with me. I would love to have you. And so I will see you then. Everybody have a beautiful start to your week. Remember, this is red flag energy. We're proceeding with caution, slow, careful, and it's going to be great. I will talk to you on Wednesday. Have a beautiful week, everybody. Until then, bye.
Mama!
Hi, baby.
Can I end the video?
Mm-hmm.